Stoney is here. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving weekend.
Absolutely. Today was great. No Lions.
No Lions lost. As always, it is fun to talk about the Lions. But this issue, which I discussed with Tim Twentyman early, you bring an interesting perspective to because it's really opening up some more angles, more chapters of this Ndamukong Suh novel.
Oh, yeah. First of all, let's get out of the way. Ndamukong Suh, Stonehead.
Wow, that's a record.
Okay.
First 20 seconds.
It's pretty obvious. So not even for the stomp, but because the way he denied it and his apology was lame, Stonehead-esque. So, Sue, you're a Stonehead. But there are bigger issues there if we believe a lot of the stuff that we're hearing on the internet and the national media. Jason La Canfora, NFL Network, says there's teammates on the Lions who are sick of his stuff. You had Jake Glazer basically quote Kyle Vandenbosch, said we have to go talk to Ndamukong Suh. There was a story in the New York Post on Friday or Saturday with a Jets offensive lineman, Slauson, saying that he was a teammate of his in Nebraska. That when he was in Nebraska, the things that he used to do in practice were unbelievable. A lot of his Nebraska teammates couldn't stand him because he was, quote, a dirty player, a dirty teammate. If this is the case, then, yeah, this is a much bigger issue than we even think. That said, I think 2 games, and that should be enough.
You also bring up something Tulloch said earlier this season, which wasn't a big deal at the time, but he said, like, hey, nobody knows that guy. And he's so concerned about his image, Ndamukong that is, it seems like he's missing the whole big picture here.
Correct.
And his image is that of a dirty player who is pushing the boundaries way too far.
And he doesn't see it, which, you know, his classic line is, I'll consider myself a dirty player when my mom says I'm a dirty player. Well, what mother ever says anything bad about their kid?
Right.
So he'll never be considered a dirty player. You know, we love to embrace these guys, you know, for the way they play. They're on the edge and all that. But when it hurts your team, that's a different ballgame.
That's where you lose the fans. That's where you start losing your teammates, and that's what we're talking about.
You know it was bad when his fan base thinks he was wrong for the most part and should be suspended. Now, there are those people who think that the Lions should suspend him on their own. No, let the sheriff, Mr. Goodell, take care of it, and everything will be okay. Hopefully it'll be, you know, an awakening for him. But they need him, especially with some of the other injuries and, you know, the penalties. You know, this has become an undisciplined team.
Yep.
They've led the league in personal fouls, what, all 3 years that Schwartz has been here, basically?
Now, I think it's to the point where he and the rest of his staff have to just take this team by the reins and say, listen, we got to pull it in a little bit.
They say a team is the reflection of its coach and its coaching staff. Well, you know what, Jim? You got to, like, get it together and get these guys to play aggressive football, but keep it the way it should be, where you're not hurting your team, because they hurt that team on Thursday. I mean, penalties. I mean, look, the Vandenbosch one, I didn't think it was a penalty, but there's some other ones that, you know, they can't have these penalties and expect to make the playoffs. Thank the Raiders for beating the Bears today. That was a good move for the Lions.
Yeah, there are some. It's complicated still. So a little too early to start rooting for specific teams, but we're getting pretty close to that point where you're going to need some help. Atlanta, by the way, hopped over the Lions today.
And they had a tiebreaker with them.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So the other things to discuss, most notably the college football scene.
Yes.
And here we are, Michigan State, all the marbles right there in front of them getting set to play for the Rose Bowl. But if you lose, woohoo.
Yeah, the way the BCS is set up, who knows if they're going to drop. You know, if Michigan State, whoever loses between Michigan State and Wisconsin, it's going to help Michigan, because right now Michigan's sitting at, what, 16th? And you got to get 14th to be BCS eligible. So if LSU beats Georgia, you figure they would drop, and the loser of the Michigan State-Wisconsin game would drop, and Michigan could get a BCS game. But go Spartans, man. What a great season. And, you know, 10 wins this year. Get the 11th.
It would be fantastic if both schools, Michigan and Michigan State, were in BCS games. Who would have ever thought that possible?
And it's great that both schools have double-digit wins, and good for Michigan that they got that Ohio State deal off their back, because it's not going to get any easier from now on when the Urban Meyer experience takes over Columbus.
And not only that, but they really have gotten better throughout the whole season, which gives you a ton of hope for the future, because you know they got a whole new beefy recruiting class coming in, and now the process is ongoing.
I don't want to put a damper on anything, but next year is going to be a little tougher for them, because a lot of those games, Nebraska, Ohio State, Notre Dame that they had at home, are on the road next year. Plus, they have to play Alabama, and they lose some guys, and the recruiting's not going to, you know, it's going to take a while for the guys that he brought in for next year to take shape. But it's great that they're back being relevant again. I'm not going to say they're completely back, but it was great to beat the Buckeyes.
Give me your thoughts on the NBA. Finally looking like we're going to have some basketball starting Christmas Day.
I like 66 games. I think that's a perfect amount of games for the NBA. You don't need to play 82.
The players probably like 66 too.
Well, except they don't get paid for 82, so that's the problem. It's all about the money. I don't like the way the schedule is being set up from what I hear. The way I hear it, they're going to play their teams in their division 4 times, which is fine, but then they're going to not play everybody, at least a home and home. So if you're a season ticket holder, you're the Pistons, and let's say the Lakers or Oklahoma City with Kevin Durant doesn't come to town, you're being ripped off. I think they should play your division 4 times and everybody else home and home, and do the math. That equals 66.
All right, he's a mathematician as well. That is Mike Stone. You can hear him from
Where's my
6
abacus?
to 10 every Monday to Friday on 97.1 The Ticket. Of course, every Sunday right here on the Sports Update.